Are you having problems with fear, self-doubt, and just not being able to get the things done that you want to get done because you are afraid of the outcome? Today on the podcast, we're talking about fear, self-doubt, and ways you can overcome it. We'll see you on the inside. What's going on, everybody? This is Mike. Welcome to the Songwriters podcast. I'm grateful to have you here today. I really appreciate you coming by. Today is a great topic. I'm excited to get into it. And I really just want to say thank you for swinging by the podcast. As usual, I really appreciate your time. I know that everybody's schedule is busy. And it just really makes me feel good to know that you are able to download my podcast, listen to them, at least a little bit of it. And hopefully I'm providing some kind of value to you folks. So thank you. I wanted to also say that my podcasts are available on Spotify and they are available on iTunes as well as YouTube, the video aspect of it, which I really enjoy doing it. So you can check it out on YouTube as well. You can download the podcast. It comes out every week. And I just wanted to do some house cleaning to let you folks know how much I appreciate it and where you can check out past episodes. We are up to episode number 32, I believe. And if I got that wrong, forgive me. But, it's been really exciting doing these podcasts. And it's been really a great honor for me to communicate with you folks and also to hear back your feedback as well. It's just really, really valuable. And thank you. Okay, people, I really wanted to do today's podcast. It's kind of off the norm of what I usually talk about. And I just thought that it would be something to address because it really affects all artists at some point in time. And I've felt it before. I know that I've worked with people that have felt what I'm talking about today. And what I am discussing today on the podcast is how do you deal with fear or deal with self-doubt or these feelings that you aren't good enough or and they prohibit you from moving forward as an artist or just moving forward in general. They lock in on you and you just get crippled with fear about certain outcomes if you go in a certain direction or if you try something new or say you don't want to audition for a new band because you're afraid that they're not going to like you. Fear really cripples a lot of artists, and it's been well documented that artists will just disappear because of it. And we want to avoid that because you create art, you want to put it out into the world, and you want to feel confident about what you're doing. You want to be able to feel like you can do this, and people do appreciate what you do. And, you feel good about what you put out into the world. But it's just not, it's the way life is. It's not always 100% like that. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to take this episode and go off the norm of what I usually talk about and really get down to the heart of what controls our fears. And not only that, but at the end, the second half of this podcast, I'm going to talk about a few things that you can do to control your fears and to deal with them and to cope so that you do not feel crippled and you don't feel like you can't do something because you're afraid of the outcome or you're afraid that you're not good enough. I'm going to try a few different things. I'm going to suggest a few different tips for you to try if you are feeling like that right now, or if you know someone who's dealing with self-doubt, loathing, and all these things, okay? It's really important that we as artists create and we have a free world in front of us or free vision in front of us so that we're not inhibited by whatever self-doubts we have, okay? So that's what I'm talking about today. And so what I'll do is I'll jump into it. Basically what I wanted to talk about is as artists and musicians and people who play music for a living or write music and collaborate, the very nature of what we do, writing, playing, getting out in front of people, the very nature of what we do is to put yourself out there. It doesn't matter what instrument you play, you are putting yourself in front of people. You're putting your music in front of people, and therefore you're opening up the opportunity to be judged and to be looked at and to be seen and to be heard. And if you're a new musician, if you just started in music, or if you're younger and you're just starting out, that can be something that can be very intimidating. because you're basically feeling like people are, judging you, and are you good enough to be actually standing on stage to be doing what you're doing? Or are you good enough to even be putting out demos on SoundCloud? People think about that stuff, or at least artists think about being judged in that way. And I think it is what drives a lot of our fears, because we compare ourselves to the people that we idolize. We compare ourselves to the people that inspired us. And that's a really hard standard to live up to, because the people that inspired us, we look up to them, and sometimes we can look at ourselves and go, I'll never be that good, or, I'll just never get to that level, which is not true. It is not true. But I understand the concept of us judging ourselves. I use this term a lot, in that you really are your own worst enemy, because your own self-doubt and your own fears can completely stop any kind of momentum or any positive feelings that you may have before anyone else does. And that's really, really a dangerous place to be, because you truly do become your own worst enemy. So the very nature of what we do as artists is putting ourselves out there. If you write original songs, you are literally putting your thoughts and your feelings to music out into the world. And that can leave you pretty vulnerable if you're not, especially if you're not used to doing it. And, we're really sensitive as artists, and we're very sensitive about what we put out. So it's easy to get to the point where all it takes is one negative comment, in social media, one negative comment, and it can just shut you down to the point where you're like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to write any more music, or I'm going to, it'll just shut you down for a while. And we don't want that to happen. But I just wanted to really to correlate the two together, in that what we do in our passion is put ourselves out there. And that is why I really wanted to address this idea of fears and how they can lock us down and prohibit us from doing some really cool work. So what kinds of fears do we have out there? What kind of self-doubt? What actual feelings do we feel when we get crippled by this thought? There's the fear of rejection, fear of people just rejecting you, or not liking you, or not liking your music. Like I used the example earlier, excuse me, you go and audition for a band, fear of them, or you not being good enough, or they're just like, nah, next, we've all felt that. I personally, I've auditioned for many bands in the past, and there is not one time where I have not walked into the room not knowing anybody and not felt like afraid to screw up, or, that fear of, oh man, they're not going to like me. What you don't want to have happen is it gets to the point where you just don't do it anymore, where you don't even audition. Or, that's just one example. But it's this fear of rejection that can be very powerful. And we as artists definitely feel that around us, because we are putting out music, and we are getting on stage and having people, hey, look at us, look at me, look at what I'm doing. It really fear of rejection can be very, very present in the artist world. So that's one type of fear. Not being good enough, not feeling like you belong in a situation, not feeling like you want to try out and do, sing vocals on your record because you feel you're not good enough. These can be very, very crippling to artists. So there's that. There's the fear of making mistakes, fear of messing up. Say you're playing a gig and, you just don't stretch yourself as an artist because you don't want to mess up. Now, I understand that there are some gigs that are very tight. You got to be on it all the time. And I get that, but what you don't want to do is get to the point where you stop pushing yourself as an artist because you're afraid of messing up. Sometimes some of the coolest riffs and coolest things in music that have ever happened were mistakes. And that's true. But the fear of messing up, that can be something that can delineate from your growth as an artist. And you never want to get to the point where you're afraid to stretch your limits and try new things. That's what we do. We're artists, and we want to grow. We want to move in a positive direction, in a forward direction, grow constantly. So trying new things and being afraid to do that can really, really stunt that growth is kind of the message behind that. Basically, fear can hold you back from progressing forward. No matter what it is, self-doubt, fear, not feeling like you're not good enough, these things can hold you back as an artist, and they can prohibit you from reaching a potential and getting opportunities that you may not have otherwise. And that's why it's such a powerful aspect of artistry, is not wanting to try something because you're afraid of the outcome. You're afraid of the rejection and things that we talked about earlier. It's just, those things are important to keep in mind, and recognizing this fear in yourself, or recognizing that you have these feelings of anxiety and feelings of, I don't know what's going to happen here. Recognizing it is really powerful into itself, because now you can say, well, I'm afraid, or, I'm fearing this opportunity, or I feel like I'm not good enough. So then what are you going to do? Now you at least acknowledge that you have this fear, and that you have this ability to get, to feel not confident in yourself. And that really is, they used to say back in the day, that is, knowing is half the battle. I mean, that is really, really a strong component of addressing your fears. But we're going to get into that in just a little bit. So the overall reason why I wanted to talk to this episode, or put this episode out about fear, is because it really, like I mentioned earlier, it prohibits you to grow as an artist. And as artists, musicians, we constantly want to experience new things, and we want to, move towards a positive place, or at least feel like we're moving forward. And that's really important, because you don't want to get stuck, and you don't want to feel like you're not passionate about the music you're doing. And with the passion is progress, and progress is passion. And that is why I'd like to combat these thoughts of having self-doubt and fear, because it is a distractor. Distractor, is that a word? It is a distractor of growing and becoming a better artist. So now that we've talked about the different kinds of fear there is, and how that applies to you as an artist, and what it can do, what it causes, let's talk about some things that you can do if you do feel like this, or you get this anxiety. What things can you do to help prevent these fears, or not prevent them, but to control them, to address them, and to manage them so you can move forward as an artist? What things can we do? Well, let's talk about, like what I just said, addressing the fear, addressing the fact that you do have these feelings. And if you do feel like this on a regular basis, addressing them and saying, okay, I right now I'm feeling myself getting anxious. I'm feeling not worthy. I'm feeling like I'm doubting myself. If you address those feelings and you put them in front of you and you go, this is what I'm feeling, and this is what I do, and this is why. Now you can at least look at that and go, okay, now I know what I'm feeling, and now what am I going to do about it to not feel this way? The power of addressing an issue is one of the most important things when it comes to, feeling like you're involved, feeling valuable, feeling inspired. Addressing the detractors, the things that stop you from getting to that point, is literally the number one weapon that you have as an artist to address them and to move forward past them. So think about the next time you feel like you have self-doubt. Think about putting that stuff in front of you and looking at it and going, okay, this is why I feel this way. Now that I know that, now that I see that, I can move forward from that by doing this. Okay. And let's talk about what else you can do. Slowly incorporate, if you have fears of auditioning or something like that, or fears of meeting new people, or fears of writing a song that you think is not going to be good enough, how about slowly incorporating these habits into your daily routine? If you have a fear about writing a song, you think it's not going to be good enough, how about every day you just write a lyric down? Write a lyric down, and the next day you write more lyrics to it. Just slowly incorporate this stuff into your life. You don't want to avoid these situations, because, like I said, you're not going to be able to grow as an artist. But if you just kind of slowly, piece by piece, incorporate these thoughts and feelings into your schedule, and you will eventually get to the point where you'll feel comfortable that you're doing it, and you'll feel more confident about whatever it is that you have fears about, or you don't feel like you're good enough about. If you feel like you're tripping over your instrument and you're just not making the kind of progress that you want, slowly incorporate the things that you want to work on, the difficult stuff, or get feedback from other people on what they would do. And that brings me to another point Find other people or talk to other people that share your same fears or have been there and have worked on ways to overcome it. There are numerous sites and places on the internet that you can go to look up, to find and to talk to other people, to converse with other people who have struggled with the same things that you have struggled with. Especially if it's really crippling you to the point where you just cannot get creative, you're not inspired, and you don't want to do the things that you want to do, basically, it is really, really a good idea to talk to other people and to share your ideas. And the internet is great for that. There are so many resources on dealing with fear and community pages on Facebook and things like that you can go read people's comments. There is a wealth of information out there on how to deal with something that you are probably going through right now. Someone else has dealt with that and is dealing with that. So find a community of people that you can talk to, or at least join and come together about it. It's really, the power of people is really I say really a lot because I do believe in discussing it and sharing your fears with other people. So that is another thing you can do to challenge yourself and get in front of these fears. Another thing that you want to do is that in this kind of goes around with the first one, is that admitting that you have these habits of, self-doubt but not letting them control your actions. Okay. It's okay to say, yes, I am afraid to try out for this band. I'm afraid to become a solo artist. I'm afraid to go out on my own. I'm afraid to start my own thing. Once you acknowledge that you have these, don't let them stop you from doing it. Go ahead and do the thing that you want to do, or at least take steps to doing it anyway. Because if you let it cripple you, you're not moving forward. And that's what it goes back to all the time, is that you don't want to let these fears run your life, because you will miss out on opportunities. You'll miss out on some really cool growth that could be happening for you as an artist, even if you feel weird about it, or you feel like you're totally, completely out of your box and you're not comfortable. You still have to make that growth. You still have to get out there and it makes you become a better artist. So don't let it stop you from doing the actual thing. Admit that you feel this way, but don't let it stop you from doing that. And you don't have to bite off the whole chunk, do small steps. Take small steps towards the things you want to do. If you want to be a solo acoustic artist and start trying to make money on a coffee house gig every Thursday, go to the coffee house, talk to people who are doing it now. Take tiny steps to get comfortable with it. Even though you are afraid to step out and do something like that on your own, just start engulfing yourself in it and take tiny steps to learn what it's all about before the fears take over and you end up saying, nah, you know what? I don't want to do that. I just don't think it's for me. We don't want you to end up feeling like that, okay? So this will go down to my last point, is that the more you address these feelings, the better you'll feel about it and the more confident that you will feel about the fears that you have. The more you'll get better at it. You'll get better at addressing your fears, putting that in front of you, and not letting it stop you as a person, as an artist, as a musician, because everybody's got fear. Everybody has something that they are afraid of. Everybody has self-doubt. Am I good enough? Am I a good enough player? Do I look the part? Are they going to like me? Everybody feels this way, but it's the ability to not let it stop you is what's going to allow you to grow as an artist. And that is what we want. And that is what we strive for. And also, it will also give you a lot of opportunities. You don't know the kind of opportunities that could happen for you if you just shut down because of self-doubt or because of whatever reasons. So those are some important things to remember, that to deal and to cope with fear, it's super important. And if you're out there, like I said, struggling with these things, please reach out to communities. Please feel free to hit me up, send me an email, and I would be more than glad to talk about what your fears are and these self-doubts that you may have and how you can overcome them by using baby steps and actually diving into the thing that you fear the most as an artist, okay? So that is today's podcast. I really appreciate you joining me today. I really am happy and proud that we could talk about this issue specifically because it affects everybody. It's affected me. It's affected people I know. And the more that we know, the more that we can come together as a community, musical community, and support these kinds of things, I think the better off we are, because the world needs more art and you create it. So the better off it will be as we can come together and talk about these issues. Okay, guys. Well, thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you at the next podcast coming soon. All right. Peace and love.